time to start the FTN show.
Hey everybody, welcome to Forge the Narrative. My name is Paul Murphy, your host. I'm joined tonight by Ricky Addington and Andrew Whitaker.
I still know nothing. What's up, homies?
And my personal ogre and bodyguard, Justin True.
This isn't where I park my car.
Dude, welcome back to the show.
Yay! I'm back. I have a life again.
I'm glad you could join us. This is episode 212. We are the Bell of Lost Souls podcast. If you're joining us through any medium, we're going to be talking about some of the specifics of the Eldar Codex. The Eldar Codex goes up for official release on this Saturday, but we're going to go over some of the units that you may see that are getting a bit of an increase, even if sometimes it's a point decrease, sometimes it's a stat increase or whatever. We're going to talk about them today.
Sweet.
Can I just jump right into it?
Let's go. This is your show.
It is 100% your show.
Well, Warzone Atlanta is also coming up. Let me take a pause for just like that. I had a meeting today where we were discussing the prize categories and how we are prizing this event. I am pleased to say it is very similar to last year and the year before, where we're going to prize incredibly deep and really give some cool stuff by way of our sponsors to lots of people that are going to win stuff over that weekend. We've got the Vendetta games, which have an online store and a presence here in Dahlonega, Georgia. We got Gigabytes. We got Dicehead, as a sponsor of this show. In addition to Warzone, we're blessed with the amount of prizes that we have. We're going to have some prizes from Games Workshop. It's going to be a fun time. We're going to give away a ton of stuff.
I'm pretty pumped. And if I can make a confession, I do have to just tell you the funniest thing ever. Since we all know Warzone is sold out. It's been sold out, 5 minutes after everything went on sale. I have one of my buddies who did not get a ticket. I have him convinced that my nephew got a ticket, and he clearly did not, but I have him convinced that he got a ticket. So I'm confessing now to my friend David that my nephew did not get a ticket. So a week from this recording, he will be stewing and he's furious right now that a 13-year-old boy got a ticket and he didn't.
Hey, first come, first serve.
Get good.
He's going down and playing in the trios tournament that you're running, Paul. And so I've got
space available for that. This is the Friday Night Fracas. It's a 3-man team event. This is a primer for what we're going to be doing, and we're going to be a larger one of this type of thing in February. But the Friday Night Fracas 3-man team event spots available for that right now. We have prizes for that too. Happy to say, this is going to be good stuff. I love giving away things. I do for people that come and win. They win them. It's prizes for winning and your performance. But I really like giving away stuff.
They earn them, Paul. They earn them.
They do. They really do.
Well, in my opinion, if you didn't make your way to getting a ticket for the actual GT itself, there are open events on Friday, and this event is such a social event that if you can make it to the Friday events, you can play in the Friday events, still get your dice on, and then just hang around Saturday and Sunday and enjoy the social aspect of it, walk around all the tables, see all the stuff. I did that at Nova, man, and I had such a way more fun.
We've never had a drop from Warzone Atlanta. Nobody's ever dropped from the tournament except one guy who partied too hard and was a little too hungover to participate on the Sunday event. I'm not counting that. I'm still saying
not
that
me.
In all the major events that I've had a hand in running, there's been 0 drops. But let's just say we're going to have the bars open on Friday night. Let's just say someone can't participate on Saturday and you're there. You have a bigger shot of getting in.
AKA find the low-hanging fruit.
But I'm not
saying
drinking
a little too much, buy him a couple drinks.
Yeah, that's never happened. I'm not encouraging that. I'm just saying that's that could happen.
I'm going to encourage it because I have a ticket. If you give me enough alcohol that I can't function the next day and you're first on that list, I'm going to call it a fair trade. So
Ricky has been known to not make it the next day.
This is November 10th through the 12th in Atlanta, Georgia. You can go to, we have a Facebook group. We actually got ramped up the players group on Facebook today, which is a Facebook group, not a Facebook page, where we're going to be putting out information going about the event. So if you're curious about wanting to just follow the event, we will be going out to the Warzone Atlanta and Forge the Narrative Facebook pages, but also this Warzone players group for stuff. And we will be live streaming the whole time. More info to come on that. Please check us out. And, if you're lucky enough to be coming to the event, know there's going to be some good prizes to be had and good hanging out.
It's really all about the hangs.
Yeah, we're here to talk about Eldar, at least right now anyway.
All right, guys. Well, good night then. It's been a fun show.
Well, I was able to play a game last night where I broke out. Now, I know in the last show that I said I was only going to play Beltane, but I played Aliatok because you cannot deny the power of this. The -1 to hit from 12 inches or more away is so brutal on things that it can dish out firepower from long range. This is like, I was playing against an AdMech list, and we were talking about, like, AdMech have a lot of shooting. Why are you not getting the -1 to hit on those guys? Like, maybe call isn't, you don't want to dedicate to Mars. You want to split it up. Like we talked about with Jeff Robinson on that AdMech tactics show, which go back and check that out if you did not catch that one. There's a lot of tips just on strategy and planning or whatever. But that craft roll ability is amazing, and pairing it with the war gear, like the vehicle war gear that I want to go over right now, if that's all right. The Crystal Targeting Matrix. A model with a Crystal Targeting Matrix does not suffer the penalty for firing a heavy weapon after moving when targeting the closest enemy. Now, you got to target the closest enemy, but if you're moving anyway, just move to where you want to shoot.
That
sounds good.
Okay. It's
How many
good.
points?
It's not. Yeah, I mean, it's totally point contingent, and it seems like one of those things that you're going to buy if you've got the points in your slush fund.
It's 5 points.
There you go.
Ball it. Absolutely ball it.
Now, all my vehicles that I was using had the Crystal Targeting Matrix, the Spirit Stones also. The Spirit Stones are roll a d6 each time the model with a Spirit Stone suffers a wound or mortal wound. On a 6, the wound is ignored.
Yeah, that's when you combo those two. Like, okay, so Eldar are mobile, right? So, like you were saying with the crystal targeting thing, you're going to be able to move to the point that you need to be able to fire, even if it is the closest target. It's probably the target you want to shoot at anyway, just with the mobility that the army provides. Now you're stacking even more defense because you're putting yourself in an advantageous position. Now you have a 6-up negation of wounds. And how much points is that part?
That is 10 points.
For 15 points, you're gaining a lot of versatility to that tank or transport or whatever it is.
You want to feel accomplished as a human being? I mean, just like... Just a stud, all right? I have a Wave Serpent hanging out in the backfield with 3 wounds left on it. One of those laser beams, those ion cannons or whatever, he shoots from 1,000,000 inches away. Puts 3 wounds, 3 damage on the Wave Serpent. Make all 3 Spirit Stone rolls.
Boom, boxcars all day, son.
I don't know, what's the third? It's the third boxcar.
I guess I'm just not... I mean, well, obviously, my role in the show is to be the Debbie Downer, but... The reality is getting this advantage when you're shooting at the closest enemy unit.
Well, no, that's the targeting. That's the targeting matrix. The Spirit Stones is whenever.
Yeah. I'm sorry. The Spirit Stones are I think clearly worth their points, but the targeting matrix. Before we move on from those, is I think that when this all gets fleshed out and in a few months when the big dog Eldar lists are coming out and competing at the highest tournament levels, I doubt we're going to see a lot of targeting matrices, because the reality is very, very frequently the thing you want to be shooting at is not the closest model. There's conscript screens, there's brimstone screens, whatever it is. That's a huge limiting factor, especially if you're talking about taking like 2, 3, 4 of these models with targeting matrices. You're talking about 15, 20 points. At the margin, I just don't know if that's the most optimized vehicle equipment.
That's a fair point, because I mean you're hitting on 3s normally, reducing your going to 4 with a movement. Maybe you don't find that it's worth that.
Yeah, it's just like, oh man, it's turn 1. I guess I really don't want to waste shots shooting at this Scout Sentinel. I really want to shoot at those Manticores or those Basilisks.
Well, you don't have to shoot at the closest target. It just
right, but
a model targeting this,
Certainly, but my point is that targeting matrix, and I think you would agree with me, is that you have ostensibly wasted 5 points every turn that you're not shooting at the closest enemy unit. And I think that if you are going game to game and kind of objectively looking at it, there are better ways to spend that 20 points in this Eldar Codex, which is loaded with wildly reduced.
And you are talking about 20 points across several tanks, but your point is well made. I think that's worth mentioning.
I would like to just touch on it for 2 seconds. And I would say that this is something that you would put on maybe like your Wave Serpents that you're moving up, and you're going to be delivering maybe your Wraith Guard or Wraith Blades or something, or your Guardians that you're just trying to throw onto an objective right quick. I think that it's good in that context, but it's definitely not for your fire prisms and whatever else fancy schmancy tanks that they have that sit in the backfield.
There's the Falcons,
I agree with you in that point.
Last night,
Falcon, there you go.
It was just one of those that I wanted to put them on the table because they got such a point decrease from the index. And the Falcon was actually like the first like really cool different model that came out. Like when the Falcon was released, people were still using the original Rhinos. Like, can you imagine that right now in your head? Like a small 2nd edition Rhino sitting next to a current style. What is the Falcon style right now? now, and those existed in the same time period.
That's a little crazy.
Yeah.
like when you really imagine it and close your eyes, that's crazy.
But yeah, good points, guys, on that. The other two pieces of war gear, well, I'll let you guys be the judge. The star engines, when a model with star engines advances, add 2d6 to that model's move characteristic for the movement phase instead of d6. That's when it advances. I'm not as happy about that. And then here's the vectored engines. If a model with vectored engines advances, your opponents must subtract 1 from all hit rolls for ranged weapons that target it until your next movement phase.
Can you hit us with the points cost on those two?
10 points. 10 points
For
on
both?
both of those. Yeah, they're 10 points each.
I like them. I think they're. It depends on the role that your tank is providing. Like I was, mentioning before, I think that there's some use to them. Game breaking, probably not for me.
Yeah. I did not take the vectored engines, but when we'll talk about a stratagem here for this craft world, what I think is probably the most powerful craft world just from stats in the book, there's a stratagem that gives lightning reflexes, which gives an additional -1 to hit. It adds up. It adds up a lot.
Yeah, that's a good combo.
I don't know that you're going to want to advance. Like I can't think of many situations to where you're going to be wanting, unless you're running away from something, unless you're trying to get across the table.
Yeah, but like Troop says though, the wave serpent, and especially if you look at the wave serpent's weapons, which if I remember correctly, the default weapons are assault weapons.
They are.
So
Shuriken cannons are assault weapons.
Yeah, so them taking -1 to hit them when they advance, these things I would always be advancing with these. Just advance them around the table.
Oh, that's a good point. Well, like wave serpents
Yeah.
with the shuriken cannon, twin link shuriken cannon on top, which is 6 shots. And then a shuriken cannon on the bottom, and you're just advancing everywhere and hoping for the spraying and praying, essentially.
Yeah.
Just advance.
Feels like the Hornet.
Yeah, just jump the dudes out when they get there, and you're still shooting them up. And if they try to shoot at you, it's -1. And then if they're, what is it? That craft world? Is it a craft world?
Yeah, it's a craft world attribute ale attack.
-2.
If
Yeah,
you're 12
that's pretty baller.
inches away,
Hey, you're advancing. You got the advantage on where you're going to be placed. So
that's a good point. The fire prism is something that's getting a lot of interest as well. And the fire prism, again, this is one of those older tanks that it's got a newer hull cannon now, which looks really nice. The fire prism is strength 6 in itself. That's just the actual vehicle. Toughness 7, 12 wounds with a 3+ armor save. So that kind of standard tankish type body, the toughness 7 on all these is pretty good. The prism cannon has 3 modes of fire. And when you attack with it, you have to choose, of course. And then there's going to be a special ability that lets you fire it twice and has to fire with the same mode of fire. As dispersed, these are all the same range, 60-inch range. Heavy D6, this is for the dispersed. Strength 6, -3 AP for 1 damage apiece. Focused, which is heavy D3, strength 9, -4 AP with D3 damage. And then the Lance, which is heavy 1, strength 12, -5 AP. And there's not a lot of -5 stuff out there. And it does D6 damage.
-5 AP is the ultimate, oh, you didn't bring an invulnerable save, sorry.
That's a nice
just,
Bane blade you got there.
Yeah.
Oops.
The height of redundancy.
Yeah. But I think, Troop brought up a good point with the fire prism before the show. I believe it was Troop. The versatility that the prism cannon brings makes the fire prism a fantastic weapon. I'm going to call it the rust prism because, in my opinion, it's basically a Lehman Rust now.
Well, let's talk about the pulse laser discharge. If this model moves under half speed in its movement phase, i.e. moves a distance in inches less than half its current move characteristic, it can shoot its prism cannon twice in its next shooting phase. So that would be that shooting phase, because you're moving, then the psychic phase, then the shooting phase. So you're getting to take advantage of it right then. Am I reading that right?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. That's huge to me. I mean, you have the range. 60 inches is a table.
And you do have to use the same profile. I mentioned that before, but that's what the rest of the rule is, use the same profile. So go ahead, Drew.
Right. Now, so you have your options. If you're shooting at a Baneblade with that strength 12, -5, you're going to want to shoot it twice anyway because you're not killing it in one shot, right? You're bringing that down tremendous amounts of wounds. You're bringing down all these big things in tremendous amounts of wounds. Say that nobody has any big tough guy out there with multi-wounds. You have 2d6 of strength 6 damage that's got still a pretty good AP value on it. Was it -3, right?
Yeah. -3. 1 damage, but -3.
Yeah, that's huge. You get to mop up Terminators or Space Marines or,
heavy D6,
equivalent.
though. There's just so much variance right there.
Well, you got dice.
They're not catechins. Okay, we get it. That's the downside. They're not catechins. But I mean, you got to look at it more as it's heavy 2d6. Don't look at a fire prism ever again as being heavy d6, heavy d3, heavy 1, heavy 2d6, heavy 2d3, heavy 2. Because if you have this ability, why in the world would you move that fire prism?
Well, and let me also state that half movement on an undamaged tank is still 8 inches.
8 inches on a fire prism. That's huge. So, but the thing is, like, to me, none of the weapons on a fire prism are the end all be, or on the prism cannon. None of them are the end all be all of awesomeness. You can get better shots from other weapons and more reliable, but you can't get the versatility that the prism cannon brings.
Yep.
And that has so much value in itself, because how many times have you brought that las cannon when all you needed was an assault cannon to clear some dudes off an objective? And the fire prism can do what you needed to do when you needed to do it.
The fire
standing up applauding.
It's 155 points stock. I mean, you've got to buy its underslung shuriken catapult or a shuriken cannon, so you're looking at 165 points off the line.
Yeah, you're basically paying roughly the same points that you would pay for a Lehman Russ, and we all know how great Lehman Russ has got with their new ability, and it's so easy to compare this to a Lehman Russ. I mean, it's a Lehman Russ with different shells in it, and it can also fly. It's a flying Lehman Russ. Take them. Take numerous.
Yeah, flying is important, as we come to a couple stratagems later. And of course, things can target things that fly differently, but it is a flyer tank.
Yeah, but that's one of the best things is it's not getting locked into assault. If it survives assault, it's backing right out, and guess what? Dispersed prism cannon is going to wreck your face.
That's one of the most massive advantages that these tanks have. Obviously this is a great analog to the Lehman. Kind of provides the Xenos countervailing option. The whole half speed shoot twice rule is now common between them. But the biggest advantage, at least in my opinion, that this tank has over its Imperial counterpart is the fact that it has that flyability. If you can just touch a Lehman Russ, you've more or less won the game, because you've taken a whole turn of shooting away from it and whatever other of its compatriots that you've touched in close combat. That should not be overlooked. It cannot be underestimated. If you're looking at Magnus, Mortarion, Demon Princes, whatever, if they survive the shooting and get into close combat, the tide has shifted. These tanks don't have that limitation. They're just literally, okay, I'm going to move back 6 or fewer inches and then shoot you twice again in your face. That massive cataclysmic defeat could be handed to assault-centric armies because of that. So, when you're
in a tank duel, let's just say you're fighting a fire prism versus a Lehman Russ. Yeah, I mean, you could technically assault the Lehman Russ with a fire prism, and then
you'd be an idiot not
to.
And shoot it.
You'd be an absolute idiot not to. And
I did that kind of stuff last night with some. There were what are those things? The Dune Striders or whatever. They're about midfield, and I'm trying to get some Wraithguard and a Wave Serpent further down the line while still shooting and stuff. And so you know what I'm going to do? I'm just going to assault with this fire prism. Assault with the Wave Serpent, and then get some more movement on my fallback. Towards you with Wraith Cannons, which are bad.
That don't suck.
And what is it? You pay the 5 points, and when you retreat out of combat, you don't care. So.
I did not have that upgrade on there, but it's still using a flying tank last night that actually had decent guns on it was pretty powerful.
Yeah, I'm telling you, I will say it right now. A fire prism army will beat a Lehman Russ army any day. But here's another thing is just from think of how many points we spend, how many points guard players spend to protect their tanks. How many points do we spend on conscripts or infantry squads? All this stuff.
Just a bubble wrap. The bubble wrap concept of surrounding the stuff.
You don't have to do that with a fire prism. I mean, it helps. You're going to want something there because you don't want the tank to get wrecked. But if it does get touched, if it does get sucked into assault, it's not the end of the world for it like it is for a Lehman Russ or
with a
any
3+ armor save and toughness 7 and maybe some spirit stones on there with some lucky 6s, you're not going to beat these things down very easily at all.
What I like too is we used to talk about Eldar. People would play them cagey.
Yeah, scoot around and stuff.
Yeah, you can be more aggressive now. Like with your tactics, you're not shorting yourself any movement by like what you said, assault that tank and then slingshot yourself forward with your fallback. Like, you just gained how much more room? Like, that's
potentially
ridiculous.
12 more inches or 15 inches or whatever, potentially.
Yeah, huge. I'm slingshotting across the board with my tank, and I'm shooting and all this other stuff, and I have all this defensive maneuvers, and now I'm in your grill. What are you going to do?
Well,
now I'm dropping off all these D-sized guys and D-cannon guys and all that other stuff.
Yeah, what hasn't changed about the Eldar is that they really kind of, I don't want to say break the rules, but like when you go for things like a flying tank being able to be a lot more really agile, like it really has the agility shows itself in the game. It's not just a stat. There's so much more you can do with it as if you're piloting one of these sleek floating things. And then if I can jump over to the Dark Reapers, they have heavy weapons, but their ability, the inescapable accuracy, they always hit on a 3+ when firing their range weapons in the shooting phase, regardless of any modifiers. It's another way that the Eldar kind of break the rules a little bit and say, you could do things like the Falcon. The Falcon is a troop transport. That is one of the differences between it and a fire prison. The Falcon can actually hold a few dudes, and Dark Reapers, come in smaller squads. So it makes kind of a tight punch, like if you're making some kind of a really, really potent, punchy spearhead detachment.
And I think none of this even mentions the way that the Ynnari Soul Burst works, right? I mean, all of this kind of couples with the innate optimization of Soul Burst. Anytime you mess with the what's the fancy gaming term for it? The action efficiency,
the mechanics, and the action economy.
Yeah, action economy. Thank you. Anytime you mess with action economy, you're messing with you're toying with something super powerful. And I think that, man, this Eldar, by virtue of the fact that they can so easily mess with that action economy, coupled with these movement bonuses, shooting bonuses, even just the baseline, hey, I'm 17% more durable because of these spirit stones. Those things add up, and they become real strong very, very quickly.
Yeah, and when stuff like command point rerolls and things of that nature, you're really in those kind of real critical moments. You might not lose that tank, and they don't get, they do degrade, they do, and they get down to hitting on 5+, but that's not until they have 3 wounds left. So you've got to get through a large percentage of them, and they're still hitting on 4s with some of these potent guns, and still with a pretty good movement capacity at that middle rank. They're still moving 12 inches a move.
Yeah, with like kind of all the stuff that we've been discussing, and everything that you guys covered last show. I want to say, really, when I think back of like 7th edition, and I saw an Eldar player sitting across the table from me, and 2 or 3 Wraith Knights, you know what? Let's not even waste the time. Handshake, you win. Let's go have a beer. I feel like now that Eldar are in such a way that they're still strong, but they're not annoyingly strong where you just don't feel like you have a chance. Their mechanics are fun. They're dynamic.
I agree with that.
They're not game breaking. Like, I actually want to play Eldar players because I want to go against some of these mechanics. I want to think tactically and all these different decisions that I have to make, knowing that your tanks fly and your guns do this and you have that and this and that.
The previous versions of the Eldar, it almost felt kind of, I don't want to say slimy or grimy or whatever. It felt like they weren't playing on the same game that you were. I'm talking about when they were the boogeyman.
Before you had the Game Genie.
Progressive. Yeah, that's exactly right. The Game Genie.
It definitely felt like there were performance enhancing drugs being used by the Eldar during 6th and 7th. So now it feels like, it feels more like what Eldar should feel like. They're agile. They can bounce around. They can do these things.
With
Troop
weapons
said,
that kill Marines, they're really good at killing Marines.
Yeah, but nobody takes Marines anymore, so it doesn't matter. But it doesn't feel like it's just they brought elf ears, so they auto win. Now it's like, if you can outplay them, you're going to win. But if they know how to handle an Eldar army, they're really going to pull some tricks on you. It's going to be really neat to see on the table.
While we're talking about the flying tanks, let me jump over to the Wave Serpent. The Wave Serpent has 13 wounds, and this Serpent Shield is awesome. Any damage suffered by a Wave Serpent or a range weapon is reduced by 1 to a minimum of 1.
I think we're going to see Wave Serpent spam again, because I think that's huge.
You can fire it off once per battle. You can do D3 mortal wounds. On a 2+, you do D3 mortal wounds to the nearest visible enemy unit within 24 inches. But it's got to be a real, like, I guess touch and go situation for you to fire off this shield, because that reducing all the damage incoming by 1 is crazy. We talk about the las cannon math a lot on the podcast because it's a metric. It's something we can look at. Las cannons, what is their damage? Their average damage is 2 or something like that after you factor in armor saves and the variance of the damage roll and then the potential to miss and maybe not wound.
Yeah.
It's like 2 damage.
Yeah, if you including variability to hit, it's probably sub 2.
Well, now it's 1 with a Wave Serpent.
Yeah.
So you've got to fire 13 las cannons at a Wave Serpent that isn't Spirit Stoned. You've got to fire 18 las cannons at a Wave Serpent.
I'm loving it, man. You rush these guys forward. You have all these other tools that we talked about earlier, and you pop your cannon or your shield. Right, you're down to a wound or 2 left. Pop your shield. Get those free mortal wounds out there and start crippling people as you move your people in place.
Well, like
it's a good counter.
4 Wave Serpents being able to pop all their shields on like a Magnus or a Mortarion or whatever, that's going to be significant damage.
It's also a good, counter. If they get charged, it doesn't say it has to be in your shooting phase, or it doesn't say when. It just says once per battle. So, if you're overwatching, do it. If you get
phase.
Locked in.
No, it's in the shooting phase. Wave Serpent can discharge
does it say
its
that
Serpent
now?
shield in its shooting phase. That may be a change from the index, but it's definitely in the shooting phase.
I'm sorry,
now.
because I don't have the Codex. I was looking at the index. Okay, so they clarified that. Hey, disregard everything I just said.
Well, no, it's a change, so it's what we're talking about.
Yeah.
I mean, the Serpent shield now is only in the shooting phase.
Yeah, definitely know when to use it. Yeah, you don't want to get caught trying to use it then and then have to deal with that.
Yeah, I'm glad that they made that distinction, but at the same time, I'm kind of bummed because I liked that you could just do it whenever. That made it really strong.
Yeah.
The Wave Serpent is 107 points, and that's without the weapons. That's just the chassis.
I love it.
Yeah, I played, I want to say with 3 last night.
So if you gear it up with the weapons, you're looking at, 170-point tank?
I think that sounds about right, because,
in that realm.
if you put Bright Lances on the top, that's a 40, Twinly Bright Lances is something like 40 points, and that's the most expensive weapon. But then you want to put Spirit Stones on it for 10 points, and maybe the Targeting Matrix on it for another 5. So what are we looking at? We're looking at like 160 something points.
As a transport, though, I almost just want to load it down with assault weapons and keep that thing mobile. I mean, I like the heavy weapon options on it, but I feel like if I'm using it as a transport, I almost would rather just have the assault weapons on there, getting it across the table where it needs to be while still laying down fire.
I mean, some of the cheaper assault weapons just aren't really worth paying points for.
Well,
so.
Twin-Link Shuriken Cannon is 17 points, and that's 6 shots.
Yeah.
What's the profile on that, though? Remind me.
24-inch, assault 6, strength 6, 1 damage, and each time you make a wound roll of a 6+ for the weapon, the hit is resolved with a negative 3 AP.
Okay. Yeah, that's actually not bad. I'm picking up what you're putting down there, Ricky.
And that's I had to go a little bit cheap.
I disagree.
Slightly better than Razorbacks, I think.
What's your point?
At those ranges, I mean, if you're gonna, unless again, Eldar remains the army that has all this incredible, powerful transport capacity and nothing to transport. At the end of the day, what are you actually trying to get?
Wraithguard and Dark Reapers.
Maybe Wraithguard. Again, if you're a fluff player and you just love the Wraith motif and stuff, and you just want to play with Wraithguard, great. But I hate to be the bearer of optimized, win at all costs gamer bearer of bad news. But Wraithguard are still kind of garbage offensively, and compared to their other options, Eldar options, jet bikes, falcons, fire prisms, fire dragons, jet bikes, etc. You must have a real compelling reason to be playing Wraithguard if you're like, oh man, I'm going to take advantage of my incredible transport capacity.
For 200 points, that's for 5 dudes.
That's a crazy amount of points.
3 wounds apiece, toughness 6, with the ability to fall back out of combat and still fire their weapons.
They're not shooting D cannons anymore, guys. They're shooting D6 wounds guns. They're shooting las cannons.
Wraith cannons with strength, specifically strength 10, but I know they're D6 damage with a negative 4
It was
save.
strength 10. Yeah. That's what it was in the index.
Yeah. That still does a lot of damage. That is a lot of damage.
I'm not trying to convince anybody of anything. Really, I'm not. I will eat my words if it turns out actually Wraithguards are the end all be all. But my hunch is that Wraithguards, when you do the math, at 200 points, you're much better off against the vast majority of opponents to just add another Wave Serpent, as opposed to putting something, more expensive into the Wave Serpent you've already got.
Well,
how many points is a fire dragon?
Yeah, you'd be getting more fire prisms at that point or something, I think. But
sure.
I see what you were saying. I think that the ability to dump that amount of damage on people that doesn't stop, because even if you get up close with their close range weapons, people are going to assault you. They're going to do some damage. They're probably not going to do a lot of damage, and then you just scoot out and shoot them again. Now, Fire Dragon is 7 points base, but it has the Fusion Blaster, which is like 800 points. Sorry, 17 points.
For the fusion gun?
Yeah.
The same cost as a heavy flame.
Or a melting. It's like a melting gun range. It's same points.
Yeah.
Or similar points. I don't have it in front of me.
So about half the price, roughly, as a Wraith Guard unit for 5?
Yes.
All right.
Yeah. So kind of like what Andrews is trying to say is we're not going to see a lot of battalions of Eldar. His point is
brigades,
specifically.
You mean the big ones?
No, I'm thinking battalions because the troops suck.
Yeah, the troops
spearheads. I'm just playing Eldar
spearheads. The troops are garbage.
Yeah, the troops are terrible. I'm thinking spearheads. I'm thinking the what is it? The Vanguard is the elites.
It is important to mention that jet bikes are fast attack. They're not troops anymore, and then the troops are the different types of guardians, basically, and rangers.
Yeah, we're not going to see too many battalions. Outside of, there's the one craft world that makes Footdar pretty good. I don't think you're going to see too much battalion action. Brigade action, I mean, really, I don't know if their point efficiency is that good to pull it off.
A unit of 5 rangers is 60 points.
Yeah, but then you got to take 6 of them.
Just 5. Oh no, you're talking about for a battalion.
The battalion is the three command point one, which 3 troops and 2 HQs. I don't think we're going to see any of those. And then you mentioned the brigade earlier, which is the 3 of everything, 6 troops, 2 or 3 HQs.
Yep.
I don't know if you have enough points to do that. Can you?
I don't think so. It's 2 point intensive to have the brigade in here, which I think you're probably right. I mean, some of the stuff we're talking about, and what Andrew was talking about before, is that there are cheaper things that do similar stuff. With the Fire Dragons being 1 wound apiece versus 3 wounds in the Wraith Guard, I don't know. I want Fire Dragons to be good too. I love the way the models look, and I really miss sending them around in Falcons and Wave Serpents. So maybe that is it. But I think what you're saying is the types of detachments that we're going to you think we're going to see things along the lines of like spearheads, vanguards, and outrider detachments to take advantage of some of this other stuff, which is cool because I like that the game allows for that kind of stuff. I mean, that is what the craft worlds used to do. They used to alter up the 4-sword chart. Anybody remember those?
Yeah. I miss those days.
But now we can see this kind of stuff. But and the craft world abilities are up on the community site as you've heard us say, and we'll talk a little bit about them after the break, and then we'll go into some of the other units and stuff. How's that sound?
Oh man, pumped! This is a fun book.
Be back in a minute.
Forced Narrative is brought to you by Dicehead.com. www.dicehead.com. Games, hobby, supplies, and comics. They have it all.
Hey everybody, we are back. I'm still Paul. I got Justin, Andrew, and Ricky with me.
Oh yeah.
What's up, homies?
Still here.
So I know we keep referencing the craft world traits on the community site because they have them published there and stuff, but we'll go over a little bit here. It's just in my opinion, some of these are just kind of like miles apart with effectiveness. That doesn't mean they're not themey, and that doesn't mean that you can't still build a list. And that's kind of one of the neat things about the way 7th edition works. With the cool abilities on the unit, with the stratagems, and then with things like command points, you can make stuff happen. Like some of the stats are almost secondary.
It is in large part reminiscent of the Guard Codex, right? Where you kind of scroll through and there are clear winners and losers, right? Like
we're talking about the best stat, the best point, the best entry for your money or whatever, or for your point investment in a tournament. So everything we say is kind of boxed within that. So take that for what it's worth. Someone's going to say, well, I love the Ulthway attribute. That's completely fine. Keep on doing it. We're not saying don't do that or don't play it. But I think if you're going just stat for stat, the Aliatok, with your opponent must subtract 1 from any hit rolls for attacks that target a unit with this attribute at a range of more than 12 inches. That is very powerful when you have a long range armor. We've talked about this before, and how it comes up in different stuff, but this stat's awesome.
It's the clear winner in terms of efficiency. And look, if you are concerned about the leadership of your Wraith Guard, by all means, take Eandon, right? Like, go to town with that immune to leadership test, ostensibly like Eandon trait. But that's not good competitively, right? That's not like the most point efficient.
You got to play into it to make it good. Like, you have to be taking a bunch of Wraithguard so you're not losing models. Because remember, when you fail a morale test, you're losing models. So these things have 3 wounds, so you're picking up the whole thing. For the Eandon is what I'm saying. You'd have to play into it to make that even remotely
right. But even then, like, best case scenario, you're like, oh, well, they're already leadership 8, and then I lost 3 of them, so I need a 6 to lose 1 guy. And the Eandon trait is like, no, you're basically immune to that now. Well, that's functionally nothing, right? So there are some traits that are essentially redundant. Don't want to get bogged down in the details. The point of the story is that there are always going to be clear competitive winners and losers.
Wraithguard just leadership 9, by the way. Just want to put that out there. So
exactly,
it's even.
You have to lose 4 guys in order for you to risk losing the 5th to leadership, right? This is not. It is the Eandon craft world trait is essentially useless. It has no competitive value whatsoever.
Yeah. If you're really worried about that,
but if you're having Guardian Hordes, you're going to have an avatar. You're not going to be hoping for this trait, I don't think. But.
Right, exactly. And so my point is, in all of that, not to bog down in that detail, only to say that, hey, just because there are clear competitive winners and losers doesn't mean that you can't play the craft world that you've been in love with for however many years.
Well, let me jump over to the Ulth way too. This is going to be right in line with the point that you're making. Roll a d6 each time a model with this attribute loses a wound. On a 6, that wound is ignored. If a model has a similar ability, i.e., the stuff you're going to be buying in the upgrade we just said you could get on your tank, then you can choose which ability to use when the model loses a wound, but you cannot use both. I'm not excited.
Yeah, there's redundancies. Yeah.
I mean, if you got the double, like if you took the Warlord trait, the Feel No Pain Warlord trait or whatever, and then some other abilities that we know people have been stacking, we're shooting for a 6 both times. I thought that was that. I didn't necessarily love it, but here being able to, basically canceling them out, I don't know. I think that's too far the other direction. I'd rather it have given like a +1 or something.
Yeah, it's just, it's like beating a dead horse. There are the winners and the losers. I mean, the redundancy that some of these provide and the strength that some of these provide are just, it's so obvious. What I like about what Andrew was saying, though, is if you do have your craft world that you love, the rules that go along with it kind of fit into its theme. And there are people out there that play thematic games, thematic campaigns, and all that stuff.
We hear people talking all the time about power level games and their themes and their campaigns, and that is awesome.
Yeah, dude. If that's how you play and that's how your game group plays, like, you're actually winning on all ends. But we're really only diving into what's the nitty gritty, most efficient. And with the fancy A word, I can't pronounce it. Paul, help me out here.
Alien talk.
Yep, that thing. The aliens that talk. It's so powerful. It's okay. So Raptors, right? Space Marines, Raptors, same chapter tactic basically. Space Marines aren't that good, right? I mean, that's kind of a.
They have the weakness of being a power armor-based unit in an edition where power armor is not amazing.
People that are playing Raptors at a highly competitive level.
We're only talking about base stats. Mission design has a lot to do with it, and you should be making missions in your events that help equal out and balance the playing field so you can encourage a wide range of things to come to your event.
Right now, missions are so wildly different from region to region, I feel like. We play kind of differently here. In the Southeast, with the way that we play missions, you go up the road from me, not even 3 hours. Their missions are so much more dynamically different. And then let's throw a rock all the way across to the west side. Those dudes are playing missions that are completely different too. It's kind of crazy how regionally missions are played. So much dynamically different, and how you have to kind of plan for that with your events.
And Justin, I think you meant the Raven Guard. Yeah, I think your point is very, very well made about being able. What we're talking about before, this is just one element. Like the stats themselves lend themselves to all this variety to build themes that you want, and it's there. It's in the book. We're talking about efficiency though for tournaments and stuff like that. So with the Beltane tactic is that add 1 to the leadership characteristic of aspect warriors, because they've got the sword wind. They used to be all like the original craft world was just you got to take aspect warriors as troops, and let me tell you how much I miss that. That was an awesome time period.
that's what I think of when I think of Eldar, is those aspect warriors running all over the table. And I always thought that was the coolest thing ever. And that's what I just killed me about last edition, was all you ever saw was Codex jet bikes, and we never saw aspect warriors. So anything that will help push aspect warriors onto the table, I would be happy with.
You can reroll hit rolls of 1 for shuriken weapons used by units with this attribute. So a shuriken weapon is any weapon that has shuriken in the name. And the Kuranos bow is also a shuriken weapon. It's one of the relics that replaces a shuriken pistol or something.
Sounds like Swooping Hearts got a little bit better than with that.
They don't have shuriken weapons.
I stand corrected.
Do any of the aspect warriors? I don't even
Dire
know any of them that do.
Dire Avengers.
The most boring.
Well,
the
Avenger
Wonder
shirt.
Bread of aspect warriors.
Yeah, they are, but they are the most numerous in the lore too.
Yeah.
Their Phoenix Lord is the one that founded all. I think he founded all the Phoenix Lord temples. So take that.
Howling Banshees have shuriken pistols.
Yeah.
So there's that.
Yeah, this also works for the Wave Serpents and their shuriken cannons.
Yeah.
So,
That's what I was thinking. When I read that, I was thinking more Wave Serpents, because everything keeps coming back to the Wave Serpent, in my opinion. But
we might see a lot of them.
Yeah, I think we're going to see a lot of those. And Fire Prisms.
Yeah, we talked a lot about the ability, the Webway Strike and the Cloud Strike, and how that plays into stuff. That's where you spend command points to be able to deep strike things, essentially. And for the Webway Strike, 3 command points get you 2 units. The Cloud Strike's on a 1-for-1 basis for vehicles that can fly. I want to talk about one of the Craft World stratagem, and this is the lightning fast reactions. I called it lightning reflexes earlier or whatever, but use this stratagem when a friendly Asurani infantry unit or a friendly Asurani unit with the fly keyword is chosen as the target for an enemy attack in the shooting or fight phase. Subtract 1 from all hit rolls that target that unit for the rest of the phase.
Hey, casual, super strong, right? Like, especially if you're playing the Alderrock, whatever. Aeleatok, thank you. Craft World, you're like, all right, you're already -1. You're 13 inches away from me, so you're already -1. You're going to shoot at this model, now you're -2. God forbid I use this on a Hemlock or something. Now you're -3 because I'm innately hard to hit. That is crazy town powerful for 1 command point.
It's 2 command points, but it's
less good at 2 command points, but still useful.
It's less crazy powerful, if you ask me. But when you're in a situation to where you're in a gunfight with someone and you need your Fire Prism to live, or you need something to live, this clearly, in my mind, stacks with every other modifier that's going to come up.
Yeah, I can't conceive of any reason why it wouldn't stack.
Neat thing for the Pathfinders that's talking about Aeleatok also is a stratagem for Pathfinders. And, with match play, you only get to use these once, or once per phase anyway. Use this stratagem at the start of any enemy shooting phase. Pick an Aeleatok Ranger unit from your army that is in cover. Attacks that target the unit in this phase only hit on rolls of a 6, irrespective of any modifiers. That is a 1 command point.
Pretty hot.
The reason I'm pointing this out, because these are things that make survivable things, because the Rangers already get a +2 when they're in cover. So hitting them on 6s and then them saving on a 3+ is you're going to claim that progressive objective that turn.
Yeah, I mean, it essentially not guarantees, but it's a
huge
bonus. It all but guarantees that a unit you really need to stay alive indeed stays alive. That's a big deal.
There is a stratagem called the Phantasm. This is similar to like Eldrad's ability. It's a 2 command point stratagem. Use this stratagem at the start of the first battle round, but before the first turn has begun. Pick up to 3 Asurani units from your army that are on the battlefield. You can immediately remove these units from the battlefield and set them up again as described in the deployment section of the mission you are playing. If you redeploy a transport, all embarked inside, it remains so when it is set up again. That's a 2 command point thing for 3 units.
Man, the multiple command points. The issue I see with the 2 command points thing, especially for Eldar, is that, like, as Troop pointed out, the troops are garbage.
I was just getting ready to say that. Yeah,
and so you're going to be, because I can't see a ton of Eldar brigades out there.
I don't want to short sell the troops, but I think they are largely in that kind of tax realm. Things like the Storm Guardians being 7 points each, and then having the ability to kind of buff them a little bit with some other stuff. They're
Sure.
fringe, but I mean
They are fringe. There might be a particular list that you can kind of machine out of there, but in the main, I think that the troops are squarely attacks, and it's 7 points a model and 10 models a squad. I don't know if you can take Storm Guardians in squads of 5. I think they're still 10s.
Most of the troops are in that, and they're going to be in that 60 to 80 point range with stuff.
Right. So if you're thinking about taking a brigade, you're talking about somewhere in the neighborhood of 350 points, 350 to 500 points in taxes that you're just not going to spend. No competitive Eldar list designer is going to spend that. And as a result, you're going to be command point limited. And I don't mean that in a disparaging way. I mean that in a compared to Imperial Guard, where troops are a dime a dozen, or chaos.
You got to be deliberate.
I'll
with your
throw more
command
Brimstone
points.
Horrors.
Very deliberate
Correct.
with your command points.
Exactly. Or even if you're just taking rowboat, you're just like, you just get 3 bonus command points just by taking this incredibly powerful auto-include no-brainer unit. I don't see that in the Eldar book. So command points, I think, are going to be a precious commodity. And as a result of that, anything where it's more than 1 command point per stratagem is going to be a stretch.
Are there any command or any sort of traits anywhere in the Codex that would let them get them back? Like, Astra Militarum have that ability.
Yeah, the
Ultramarines
old
can do it. Like,
have that ability, and that is the Fate Reader. So if your army is Battleforged and your warlord is on the battlefield, roll a d6 at the start of each turn. Yours and your opponent's. On a 6, you gain a command point. That's not happening, but you do roll 12 times. So there's 2.
Yeah,
you can get 2.
I want to see the guy use a command point to re-roll that roll.
There's a couple of wording. There are a couple of wording things in this codex that I think are interesting. This is one of them, and that it says each turn, and then puts in parentheses yours and your opponent's. It doesn't say player turn anymore. And then the other thing that I noticed, and there could be others, just the thing that jumped out to me, that the Spirit Stones, it went on to specify that you tried to ignore wounds and mortal wounds, when we've always just assumed that things that ignore wounds already ignore mortal wounds without having to specifically call it out.
That's a pretty good point. I never thought of it that way either.
Now, this is probably, I know this is just a wording thing here, but I see these types of things and I go, let me see how it comes in the next codex. I don't mean to sidetrack your command point talk, Ricky, but I wanted to point that out since the way that was worded.
No, yeah, it's a good point.
The stratagems here are what we were just talking about, how your economy of command points is going to be so strapped thin. Like you're really going to have to plan this out. There's stuff in here that's only 1 command point, and that's the Starhawk missile, and that you add 1 to the hit roll, and then it target suffers D3 mortal wounds. I just don't know if you're going to have the ability to kind of spread them around like that, to kind of do things like that.
Yeah, I think we talked about it in Astra Militarum. There was a similar command point for like I can't remember if it was like an orbital strike type thing or something like that.
The 3 command points for like a
yeah, the one where yeah. So like when you're playing guard and you got 12 command points, who cares? Drop in the bucket, right? Oh, and by the way, I'm probably going to get a few back during the game. But Eldar, if you're lucky, you've got 6, maybe 7 command points. You're not getting 9 or 12. Sorry, but you're so strapped for them. I'd feel kind of goofy using one for D3 mortal wounds and then turn right around and take a las cannon to the face and not be able to re-roll my save.
Here's one that's called Linked Fire. This is for use this stratagem when you select a target for a Fire Prism's Prism Cannon. Do not resolve that weapon's attacks until the end of the phase. Until then, any craft rolled Fire Prisms from your army can link fire with that Fire Prism if it is visible to and within 60 inches of them. If they do so when firing their Prism Cannons, they must target the unit that the first Fire Prism targeted with its Prism Cannon, ignoring range and visibility. That's a big one. And re-rolling failed hit and wound rolls. At the end of the phase, resolve the Prism Cannon shots from the first Fire Prism, re-rolling failed hit and wound rolls if at least 1 other Fire Prism linked fire with it.
I really like that one.
That's one command.
Since I'm taking all Fire Prisms anyway, that's probably what I'm going to save for right there in my fictional Eldar army that I'm building in my head and will never purchase because I'm busy. But that's where my command points are going right there.
Yeah, definitely. Like if you're going all in on that heavy support detachment and Fire Prisms is your choice, that's a no-brainer. And for 1 command point, You're just getting, you're becoming so much more deadly.
Dude, for one command point, any of those would have been good. You could have said one command point, ignoring range and visibility, sold. One command point, rerolling hit rolls, sold. Wound rolls, sold. But no, we're gonna get them all for one command point. Absolutely sold. I'm getting 5 command points.
That makes Fire Prisms more official.
We talked a bit about the Warwalkers in the last episode, and I used a couple of them in this last game I played. I think that they're slightly expensive with how I equipped them. I equipped them with 2 missile launchers each in single units.
Yeah.
I was just trying to put together a little spearhead with 2 Warwalkers and a Dark Reaper unit. Don't judge me. I was just messing around with the Codex.
I'm not judging you.
But the ability to come in from the table edge was pretty good.
Yeah, I'd like to see 10 points knocked off the Warwalkers, to be honest. They're still really good in that aspect where, you come in and you have versatile weapon options to choose from. But it's just I think it's 85 points you're starting out with. That's just a little too much for me.
If only there was a unit that maybe cost 50 points or so that could come in off of any board edge and was a threat in close combat. You know what I mean? Maybe it would be fun thematically if they were riding horses or something.
Don't do it. Oh, he did it. There it is. I knew it was good. I was like, no.
I'm just saying, I definitely agree with Paul. Coming in off of any board edge and being a threat, an immediate proximate threat is super strong and very thematic. So, I'm glad that they added that to the Eldar Codex. That's a really good add.
There's no shortage of options of things to take here. We did get a bunch of questions about the swooping hawks, and I feel they're not the same. They have kind of gone a little bit too far, I think, the other direction with their Skyleap ability. They've got the Hawk's Talon, which for the Exarch, which is assault. It's an assault 4, strength 5 weapon, 24 inches, damage 1, and then the rest of them have blasters, which are assault 4. So it's strength 3, though. You're really hoping for that volume of fire in this case. The Exarchs, for all the aspect warriors, still have 2 wounds, which I think is good. But the Skyleap is, at the beginning of your movement phase, if a unit is not within 1 inch of an enemy model, they can leap into the skies. Remove the unit, they can return to the battlefield as described in the Children of Baharoth ability. This unit may not both Skyleap and descend in the same turn. If the battle ends with the unit is in the skies, they are considered to be slain.
Yeah, it's a little different. The grenade pack still feels like that's where your money's made. Points cost you.
The grenade pack is now, swooping hawks can fire a spread of grenades when they are set up on the battlefield using the Children of Baharoth ability, and then as they fly over enemy units in the movement phase. To do so, after the unit has been set up using the Children of Baharoth ability, pick an enemy unit within 12 inches of them. If you do it after the move, you have to have flown over them. Then, in either case, roll 1 dice for each model in the enemy unit up to the maximum of 1 dice for each model in the Swooping Hawks unit. For each roll of a 6, the enemy unit suffers a mortal wound.
Yeah, I mean, it's weighted dice. I mean, it's a decent way of trying to put damage down.
I don't know, man.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I wouldn't call it reliable in any way. But
yeah.
It's flavorful. I mean, it gives it a little flavor, but I'm not going to count on it by any means.
They do have
I
a
think the
14-inch
Swooping Hawks. Yeah, but I like the movement. I love the Skyleap. I think it's to me, I would almost see them as more fun just for super annoying objective grabbers. Hop on this objective here, and then as soon as your enemy pushes forward and leaves an objective unsecured, get off the table, and the next turn, come back in somewhere else.
With their 24-inch range weapons and their 14-inch movement, I mean, that's, 38 38-inch effective threat range?
Good threat range, yeah. And then, I mean, you're going to want to be trying to maximize rapid fire as much as you can, so...
Oh, they're assault 4.
Yeah, the assault, the Hawk's Talon is assault 4.
Oh, okay, I was
Same
looking
with
at
the
the
Las
wrong
Blaster.
thing.
And Las Blaster being strength 3, that you're hoping for... I mean, you could get lucky with volume of shots. You're going to be needing 5s a lot of the time, sometimes 6s, but you are going to have a lot of shots.
So all their weapons are assault 4.
Yeah,
Okay.
That's good. I like the Sun Rifle has that little ability where you got to subtract the 1 to hit thing. I don't think it's...
Was there commensurate reduction in range, or is everything still assault 4 at the exact same range it
the
was?
Sun Rifle is Baharoth. Sorry, Andrew, did cut you off. The Hawk's Talon is the Exarch weapon.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Sorry, go ahead, Andrew.
I was just saying, is there a commensurate reduction in range overall, or is just everything just carte blanche? Actually, everything was rapid fire, is now assault. It's assault 4.
No, I haven't gone weapon by weapon to look at the difference between the index, but I haven't seen a decrease in threat range, in my opinion. I don't think.
I mean, that's not a crate. I don't you mean to be hyperbolic, but that's a incredible advantage if they just basically went, hey, you used to be rapid fire 2, so you were good at 24 inches, but really great at 12. And they just said, actually, we're just going to make you great at 24 as well.
Yeah, I think that's actually a huge boost. Yeah, I'm with you on that one. Massive. Like, and you know, it's one of those things like when the Stormbolter, for example, in the Imperial Codex it's like rapid fire 2 is a big deal on a 24-inch range weapon.
Grey Knights, I love them. I said
These guys get scary at 12 inches.
I wouldn't be taking them after the both codexes, the Guard Codex release, but I feel good about them still.
Well, imagine if they would make those Assault 4. Goodness gracious.
It's just it's a factor of what you're going to see. Like, you're going to encounter demons on your path through a 3-rounder or a 5-rounder. You're going to. And Grey Knights are pretty good at killing demons. And Stormbolters are pretty good at killing everything else.
No, certainly, but like, I guess Troop's point, I don't want to put words in his mouth, is just like, hey, if all of a sudden your Stormbolters were unilaterally better across the board for no reason whatsoever, except they just got changed into assault weapons, like la-ti-da.
Yeah. That's
awesome.
exactly. Yeah, I see. Yeah, you're exactly right. You're exactly right.
At the end of the day, these last blasters are still strength 3, though, right?
They are, but it's 4 shots apiece.
Yeah.
So that's a lot, man.
It is a lot. It is a lot. But
as a guard player who plays first rank fire, second rank fire a lot, dude, like, you're just scrapping wounds off of people with that stuff. Like, oh, you're only tough 5. Sorry about it. I'm hitting you on 4s, wounding you on 5s. And I've got 100 million shots, and you're dead. Thanks for playing.
I get that, but how many points for
a swooping hawk is 6 points apiece, and the Las Blaster is 7 points. So what is that? 13 points.
13 points.
It's a Marine.
I don't know. I think I'll take 20 conscript shooting strength 3 over.
You're not taking conscripts anymore.
Anything that we're talking about with a comparable weapon is not going to get the Sky Leap or the ability to generate the mortal wounds. And I do, but I know we're running long, but I do want to talk about some of the psychic powers. And we talked about like some of the really good ones on the last episode, but they are as good as we talked about, like with the mortal wound generators, with mortal wounds on top of mortal wounds with the Executioner. Now, Warlocks get the Destructor ability, which is a weaker smite. So I think it's kind of interesting that the Warlocks get a toned down smite and the Hemlock has a regular old smite, but he can also, his other casting powers reduced. The Hemlocks can only cast the evil version of the Runes of Battle. They can't, for instance, they can only cast Jinx instead of Protect.
I will say that as we approach chapter approved, and as the rumblings and rumors grow fiercer and fiercer across the internets, and as Games Workshop kind of like releases more and more public statements, like Smite is going to change. It is. It's like functionally its position in the game is going to change. And so to me, to have a power that's comparable to Smite, a power that Destructor, for example, or the
Executioner is what we're talking about specifically, with the suffers D3 mortal. The target suffers D3 mortal wounds, and if you kill a member of the unit, you roll another D3 mortal wounds.
Yeah, sure, perfect. I mean, those type of powers, Astromel Term has one. Blood Angel's power, for example, Blood Boil. Those type of mortal wound dispatching powers are going to become more and more valuable as we get nearer to a time when Smite functionally and very dramatically changes. And if I'm wrong, Smite stays exactly as it is for the entire duration of 8th edition, then I guess I'll just eat my words and just be wrong.
And we
shocked.
believe in Smite needs to change also, or should be looked at, because of there's that disassociation between the points you pay for it and what it does, and we've been on record with that. Even some proposed solutions. We'll see how much of that filters into what may become reality, but we'll see. But on the other side of the powers that we talked about, the Protect and Jinx, the Jinx is strong. That's choose an enemy unit within 18 inches of the Psyker. Your opponent must subtract 1 from all saving throws made for that unit until your next Psychic phase. That's invulnerable saves, that's armor saves, that's all saving throws. That's the Warlock power.
That one's really good. I like that one a lot.
These powers that I'm talking about, I really kind of I figured out why I like them so much. is that the Jinx and then a power like Doom on the Farseer side. Doom is if manifested. Now you manifest this on a 7, so it is not easy. They both get manifest on 7, so it's not easy to manifest these. You get a Farseer reroll type thing, but you gotta get a little bit. I was gonna say fortunate, but you gotta get lucky. Where's Chris Morgan when you need him? Fortune, Eldar pun.
Bad puns are never appreciated.
So the Doom,
it's been a punless night. Let's keep it going.
On a casting value of 7, choose an enemy unit within 24 inches of the Psyker. You can reroll failed wound rolls against that unit until your next psychic phase. The reason I like this Jinx and the Doom and several other powers that are similar is that they allow multiple units in your force to take advantage of them. So many of these powers are kind of like a one and done. They just go off and do something or whatever. But these two powers specifically let potentially every single unit in your army take advantage of them.
That increases their strength in general when it's like an army-wide buff or debuff or whatever, where everybody gets to benefit. That increases its value tremendously. Even if it's a weak quote-unquote power, it still makes it stronger when everybody gets to use that weak power.
Yeah, and also there's a Runes of Battle power called the Reveal, which you choose a unit within 18 inches and it does not gain any bonuses saving throw for being in cover. Now, as we see more codexes come out and more things, like we know that NIDs are probably coming, just putting that out there. And historically, things like Venom Thropes have given benefits to cover saves. And Rangers in this book get extra benefit for cover saves. So I like, we talk about how do you go through a codex and pick out things that might be good or might be, I don't want to use the term broken, but stuff that's like really attractive. You look at stuff that adds value or has value beyond just the page here or maybe one application. These types of things have some pretty broad applications, if you ask me.
I'm just looking at any one of them that debuffs the target for my linked fire.
Your fire
for
prisms.
my fire prisms. Yeah, so
if you want to jinx them, you want to take away their cover.
Gonna doom.
You don't need Doom because you're already rerolling wounds or whatever.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
Jinx is the one.
Doom and Guide are not needed here, buddy.
Yeah, I'm just jinxing them. I had it in my head that Doom was the good one. No,
the Warlock's an HQ choice, and they're much cheaper than a Farseer.
Yeah,
gosh,
I do like that. You're getting you're paying a premium for the Farseer, and you're getting some cool rules to go with it and some stuff. But when you're really crunching numbers, that Warlock looks like he's going to be a good go-to for a lot of armies.
He's dirt cheap. I mean, it's one of those things. Now he's got the reduced smite, so he's not like Malefic Lord level power, but he's Malefic Lord level points. He's in between that Malefic Lord and primary Psyker points. And with, in my opinion, better powers, more functional powers in there. Their Warlock powers were awesome. Like Horrify and Protect was awesome, but they're still, I shouldn't say they're better. They're just as good. They're just as good as they were before, just as effective, with tweaks to make them 8th edition friendly.
Well, here's my thing. Who cares about reduced smite on this guy? Who cares? Is he ever going to cast smite? With all the cool abilities that they have in their book, why is your Warlock going to be casting smite? He's going to be casting, other awesome spells that are going to be debuffing your opponent or buffing you. Smite's like a backup. That's to me, a Warlock, that's like, oh, well, okay, I got nothing going on today. I'll try to throw a smite. Otherwise, I'm going to be helping out my tanks.
Smite with a Warlock Conclave is a whole nother story, though. And
yeah.
That's where I think him having Smite, he needed it because he's in a Conclave, and then a Conclave smiting is ouch.
Yeah, but that's a different unit altogether, right?
There's a Warlock and then a Warlock Conclave. There is a bunch to cover, and of course, army lists themselves to be built. And I'm really going to be interested in hearing what people, when they get the Codex in their hands, what their initial go-tos were. I thought that loading up on Falcons and Wave Serpents were good. I think Fire Prisms are also incredibly good, but that Wave Serpent is kind of a rock star again.
Yeah, dust them off, boys. The Wave Serpents are back.
Yeah, and almost as cheap as they were before. You could put a bunch of them on the table if you wanted to.
Oh, easily. Yeah, I'm looking at it, and it's like, if you're putting 5 in there, I feel like.
Yeah, it could be. Let's take a quick break. We'll come back and talk about the hobby segment.
All right.
Is your garage full of dusty old models? Head on over to Frontline Gaming's secondhand shop. We buy, sell, and trade used Warhammer miniatures daily. Head on over to frontlinegaming.org for more details.
Hey everybody, we are back. This is Tom for the finishing move segment. I got everybody back with me here. I do want to. Chris Morgan is not here tonight. Obviously, I had to fill in on pun duty, so he'll be back next week. But coming up soon, he has the tournament, the charity tournament, the Wargamers for Warriors. This benefits veterans. I think it goes to a good cause. And what the charity, at least how they're raising some of the funds for this charity, is you get to sponsor a player for the War Games for Warriors event. And Chris is going to be one of those players. So if you're interested in getting more information about it, playing in it, or sponsoring him or any of the other players, make sure to hit us up on Facebook or hit him up specifically for the details. This finishing move is going to be about taking care of your brushes. After you're already painted, you've already got everything ready, what do you do now? I think I'm as guilty as a lot of people of not properly caring for my brushes. And it goes all the way to the point of how much paint I actually put on the brush itself.
You let it go to the ferrule, don't you?
Oh, he does. You know he does.
Every time.
I'm a big fan of when I'm done painting, I just like to not even rinse it off, just throw it in the water and just let it soak there for a week or two. Brush down in there.
Do not do that. Do not.
I'm completely kidding. I'm completely kidding. Do not do that.
This is stuff now. Yeah. I understand that we all get forgetful, or we'll rinse the brush off real quick and then just throw it down and not care where it lands. If it dries with the brush smashed and pointing towards an angle, it's going to be in that angle the next time you try to use it.
Yeah, no matter how much brush soap you use, you're not straightening it back out either.
Well, I mean, there's different brushes respond differently, but this is, when we're talking about, like, say you're getting Games Workshop brushes, or you're going over their Artificer line, or you're getting the Winsor Newton, or any brush you want, you have some type of investment, you want to take care of it. And part of the problem, and now look, I've been painting for how many years? Too many to respectably say on the show. A ton.
40?
I should.
45?
My models should look better. That's all I'm saying. That's all I've been painting.
And I'm going to say it like this. As a retailer, I love it if you don't take care of your brushes, because I make money off of you not taking care of your brushes. But as a hobbyist, the hobby ain't super cheap. So quit wasting money on brushes if you can extend their life out, 2-3 times just by cleaning the dang thing.
Well, some of the problem is putting too much paint on the brush. I get it. You're trying to get that whole tank painted, and you've got a large brush, and it should hold a lot of paint, and you want to reduce the times you're going into your pot. But you don't want to load up that brush tip more than about halfway. You don't want to get it all the way to the ferrule, because the ferrule is that metal part, that rim that's holding. It seems like it's holding all the bristles on the brush, and it partly is. But there's also some glue in there that's holding everything down.
One big thing too is not all brushes are created equal. So if you're buying a pack of 20 brushes from Walmart, throw them out. If you get it to the ferrule, don't even worry about it. Throw it out. But these high quality brushes, you shouldn't be base coating a tank with. So, Paul, shame on you.
Well, look, I base coat with what I base coat with. Kindly stay out my business.
If it's a GW large base coat brush, yes, base coat your tank with it.
I can get sloppy with it. I shouldn't say I can get. Yeah. I do get sloppy with it, and so that's going to reduce the life of that brush because I let that paint. I get careless with it. It's not like these brushes come with instructions, right? So where I'm going is that I'm finally a believer in now the brush cleaner and the stuff there's bunches of different out there. You can get them on Amazon or whatever, but they really do help extend the life of your brush because they get that paint out of that ferrule when you inevitably screw up and do something that you shouldn't have done in the first place that we're all guilty of. This is a little bit of a get out of jail free card.
Yeah, it's huge. And especially if you're using the the Windsors or anything that's like real hair, be it sable or whatever, the soaps and those conditioners and those cleaners, they're actually just like your hair. They are conditioning and strengthening the bristles again. So that's how your brush is maintaining its shape for these years on end. I myself have a set of brushes that I purchased, about 5 years ago at this point. And they all still look like the same as they did from day one.
Sir, I also have a set of brushes that I have for 8 years that look nothing like.
Here's what I want. I want Troop to post up a picture of his and I want you, Paul, to post up a picture of yours, and let's see who's really practicing what they preach.
I haven't been. I'm telling you, I have not been. But it's making me to where, because I do. Like, I've been trying to, I'm trying to like badge paint character models, and so you really want these fine tips on your brush, and what Troop was just saying about conditioning, like the brush cleaner, you can actually use them a little bit at the end, almost like Dapper Dan for your brush. You can kind of get that tip formed right like you want it, and store it horizontally. You don't want to store it vertical with either pointing down into the pot or even up in like a can or something. Lay them down, but lay them down to where the brush tip is not compacted. Even if you don't get the brush cleaner, the not getting the paint in the ferrule, making sure you clean them out, and then reshaping the brushes after you rinsed them off and then storing them horizontally is a good tip, even if you don't want to go the brush cleaner route. But I'm telling you, I'm a believer now.
Another pro tip too is keep that little plastic thing that comes on the end, because that's what's going to save you when you're setting it down on your gaming table or your desk, and something moves on top of it and stuff like that. Try to get a habit and putting that little plastic tip back in there. It protects it.
I don't do that. I completely agree with why you do it. However, I always miss like that one hair, and I don't
shave
notice
off
it
like
until
two
I push
hairs
it down, and it flips them back and crimps them, and and then I just have to cut them off or whatever. So it's like I just don't do it. I just protect.
Don't be a savage when you throw it in the plastic tip on there.
I feel like watch it like when you watched your grandmother putting the thread through the needle to get started sewing. That's how I feel like every single time I try to put one of those back on.
Just lay them
I just
horizontally,
have flashbacks.
and then don't knock a figure into, because I've come back. I mean, I know I've been so careful, and I come back to my next painting session, and sure enough, there's a pot of paint, and that brush is just rammed up right next against it, and the brush is going off at a 45-degree angle.
Yeah, I mean, it's brush care is such a funny thing, because like once you start using nicer brushes, and that's the thing, don't start with really nice brushes. Once you've kind of gotten fairly competent at painting, go ahead and step up. It'll change your life, but you better start getting that fear in you about getting paint in the ferrule, because when you're spending $20 on a brush, like me, if I see paint get up into the ferrule, I cringe, I freak out, I immediately start trying to rinse it and everything. It's just one of those things. Brush care is a big part of your hobby, and it's one of those things you have to build a habit for, because it's one of those things. I don't know how every one of us have done it. We've finished painting for the day. We just sit there for 2 hours, whatever, painting, and we're just exhausted, and we've got to get up and go do something. But you've got to develop that habit that the last thing you do, just like you tell your kids, pick up the toys when you're done playing with them. When you're done painting, you need to clean the brushes and take care of them. Otherwise, you're buying new brushes.
That is very true. And also, you mentioned rinsing out your brushes. I know you mentioned when paint got near the ferrule, but rinsing out your brushes every 5-10 minutes or so, and then going back to the same coat of paint, the same color of paint that you're using. If you're using it for that extended period of time, will also help build a routine that extends the life of your brushes.
Yeah, that's a great tip, yeah.
Yeah, and that's something that will vary depending, just like, when we talk about airbrushing and like how it depends on where you're at and humidity and everything, that length of time is going to vary depending on, your paint, and you need to get a good feel for that. You don't want to wait too long. Just I kind of, as a rule of thumb, go for about every 3 trips back to the wet palette, I'm going to rinse my brush out.
Wet palette. You fancy.
Oh, well, I'm fancy schmancy up in here. Yeah, every 3rd time back to the paint pot.
You can say wet palette. That's fine. I mean, they exist. I'm not telling you not to have
use
them.
it. Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Everybody.
That's my next step. I'm up to brush cleaner, then I'm going to wet palette.
Are you kidding me? You don't use a wet palette?
I use the boxes that, like the GW boxes. That's that laminate, or the laminated cardboard or whatever.
Yeah,
you're a savage.
Or I use plastic boxes that they come in.
I remember when I first started painting.
Sponge. You could have just put a little bit, put a little water in there and a little parchment or whatever.
We'll talk about this. Maybe you can make me a believer in that too.
Completely off topic. We'll talk about pallets.
I'm mailing you a wet palette tomorrow.
Yeah.
Step my game up.
Like we're a care package.
My heart hurts.
Well, guys, this has been a good show. I've enjoyed it going over the Eldar stuff. Of course, we got more things coming, and I think we'll have some time where we can talk about maybe some lists. And then once people get in their hands, I do want to hear about what people are making for their Eldar list, because they weren't present really on the tabletop with the index, and now with all the additions that they're getting, we're seeing this with codexes. Of course, that's what we expect, but the points are way more in line to build, I think, some dynamic and effective list. I'm looking forward to seeing what people come up with.
I can't wait to see. Can't wait to see that Eldar Brigade detachment. I want to see it. Somebody send it to me.
Good luck.
Hey, good luck. It's the only way. It's the only way to do it. All right. Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Peace.
I see dead people.